GOAT district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text, that trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? We are back in the district for a weekend tailgate. Another monster guest tonight, Dan. We've got Mike Schopp, the voice of the Buffalo Bills. You know him from the deep end over there at the Player Profiler Network, one of the co-hosts. We've seen him down in Vegas, drafting in the big leagues. I mean, he walks the walk, he talks the talks. We love having him in the district. Dan, how pumped are you for tonight and for this weekend?
Yeah, Toronto Dave has it right. We just added another goat tonight, so we got 3 goats. So love it. Yeah, always excited to talk to Mike, and I'm definitely excited to kind of pick his brain a little bit on the Bills while we got him. So it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. We'll figure out what the heck is going to happen in Week 9. It looks like it's going to kind of turn out to be a little bit of a weird week. Some injuries that might throw some of us for a loop. So let's see what happens.
For sure. There's a lot to get to. We'll jump right into it. Make sure you check out on this very channel earlier today, myself and the Harry Snowman, we broke down tonight's game with Tennessee at Pittsburgh. So we went deep into the lines, player props, injuries, the whole deal. Some deep analysis there. So go check that out for your start sits and for your bets tonight. And tonight we're going to get right into it. Mike, how's your season going? How's it going over there in Buffalo? And how do you feel about the Bills this year?
Let's see. Let's do that part first. I think they're mostly fine. I think the biggest, this isn't really saying much, development of their season so far is losing Matt Milano and Trey White and Daquan Jones. And I don't know if ultimately their defense will be good enough against the top quarterbacks, and they might have to win, 4 games in the playoffs if they get there. Otherwise, I think they're the same team. We talk about their offense all the time, and 12 personnel, 11 personnel. Who's the slot receiver? Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, Fournette. And they're right there. Like, the points are there, and Allen is Allen. So I think that's going to be the most important thing. I think they've got that right. They're lucky in that respect. But defensively, they might not be the same, and it could be costly. Oh, yeah, my season's going well.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. We're glad your season is going well. I don't think Dan is he in any of our leagues. He's not in our main, right? Was he?
No. I think the only place where we cross paths is in the deep end tourney.
That's great. Okay.
The invitational.
Yeah.
There's a couple others, I think, Dan. The RotoViz Dynasty.
Oh yes. Yeah. You're right. Yep.
And then there's one Fantasy Pros where it's Adam and myself, Go Bills, the 2-time defending main event winners, person 15, and you guys, and we're like all top 4. We're kind of the top 4 or 5 teams in that Fantasy Pros. That's a fun one. That's one of my favorite teams that I'm part of.
Oh, that must be the one that JD and Theo and Andrew drafted while I was on vacation. So
okay.
Yeah, I missed that one, but it sounds like it's a really good team. So, yeah, and we've got JD and I, we've got some teams that are doing really, really nice too. We've got a couple of main events that are looking really sharp.
7-1
yep.
Right now.
Yeah, 2 7-1 teams there, and
good.
Yeah, got some good stuff going in the dynasty streets too. That league that you're in, Andrew and I are not doing well in that. We've basically thrown in the towel and we're going for the 101. So,
isn't it? Do you like? I'm sorry, JD. This is not on the.
No, dude, go as off track as you want, man.
I just learned, this is my second year playing non-best ball FFPC Dynasty. I just learned yesterday from Adam Krautwurst. No, the consolation.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Playoffs for the consolation. Yeah, for
Yes.
the 101, you mean. I really like that. I really like that.
I do too.
It kind of avoids tanking, right, Dan? Because basically you play in it's like a bracket, with the bottom 6 teams, and then whoever wins that bracket gets the 101, which is kind of the opposite of most leagues where, the lower you finish, the lower your pick. Dan, how do you like that?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, there's a certain part of it that, if you're really downtrodden and on the bottom, it's pretty easy to end up with a 3 or 4 pick rather than the 1 or 2. But on the other hand, I mean, the way the FFPC is set up, if you're really that bad, there's probably something wrong with you as a dynasty player. Honestly, it's pretty hard, because those first 2 seeds will get buys the first round, but then they often lose the second round, and then then they're playing each other for the 103 and 104, whereas the better teams end up playing for the 101 and 102. So you're almost better off just barely missing the playoffs and having still a pretty good team. Like I have some teams where I would. If it was a standard dynasty league, I would be trading off, like more Adam Thielen types and things like that. But I'm looking at it like, I could use this guy to win the 101. So I'm not too interested in trading him.
Also, in that format, Dan, you have to cut to 18 players, like after the season. So it's not like pure dynasty where you just keep everybody, then draft, then cut. There are some hard decisions made in the offseason. It's totally
different than like your deep MFL, like 30-man, 25-man type leagues, because like you said, Mike, you really have to make decisions, especially cut down time. But there's also a lot of strategy in there. Like you could even make trades during the season where you're getting guys coming off of injury at the back end, knowing that you're probably playing in that consolation, and then your team goes in there like pretty stacked, and certain guys come back. So there's Harry Snowman. We got Go Gin. Ruckus is in the house. Ruckus, we'll get to your question. Guys, drop your questions, trade questions, start sits. We'll get to it. Let's jump into it. I know we touched a bit on the Bills, and maybe we get back to them in a bit. But the only thing we'll talk about tonight, like I said, if you want to dive deep, go check out the video. We've got the Thursday tailgate where we dive deep. But I'm just curious to get you guys' thoughts on Matt Canada. Moving down to the field level, Mike, making the calls now. Is this going to change the offense? Is this going to make it more dynamic for us, or does Tomlin just want to be closer to him so he can whisper in his ear a bit?
Well, it's maybe an easy shot to take, but it can't hurt. I feel like, that's the kind of move. Maybe it's well-reasoned and going to be successful. It's the kind of thing you do when you're out of ideas, I think, like they decided a long time ago they thought it was better off for him to be upstairs, and they can't score. The streak is incredible of how long it's been since they've run up 400 yards in a game on offense. It's like 3 times longer than any other team, just like really anemic. So why not go on the field? That's, I mean, it's almost a superstition at this point. Good luck to the Steelers.
Yeah, Matt is giving Canada a bad name, JD. Y'all got to do something about that. Force him to change his name, or
it's like a double take when I hear
it's yeah. Yeah, Canada sucks. I mean,
blame Canada.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I think it's all kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic when it comes to that offense. It's just staggering to think about the fact that the last person to throw a touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson was Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, wow, I saw that today.
My favorite. That is awesome. I think I'm 51. I'm almost 52 years old. The Steelers have had 3 head coaches in my lifetime.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is insane. I mean, all the teams that have churned coaches, how many? I hear the Raiders making another move, and they're not going to be the most unstable franchise. Just 3 coaches since the late 60s is unbelievable. Yeah,
that's crazy. So, but credit to the ownership there, because that's a big part of it. Just being willing to stick with your guy through thick and thin, and then that obviously they got fairly lucky on their hires. I I'd love to say that hiring a coach is something that you can, that you can guarantee. If you have the right process, you're going to get the right coach. I don't think it really works that way. I think there is some luck involved with that. Just like Green Bay with their quarterbacks. They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes teams just get nice lucky streaks like that.
You're leaving Jordan Love out of that.
I was waiting for the Jordan Love to slide in there. I mean, we were hopeful coming in. We're a little.
Hey, through 2 weeks, he was right there. He was right there through 2 weeks.
Status quo right now. So speaking of quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, not sure he's going to be starting. You're hearing like whispers that there's more to the story than what we're actually hearing. I don't know if you don't have any insight on that, Mike. Right now, the Browns are favored 7.5 at home to the Cardinals. Looking like my survivor pick of the weekend, just where I'm at with who I could choose from. But do you have any insight on this Watson situation? And how confident are you with the Browns at home without him?
I don't have any insight that you haven't read already. It's really, this year so far, it's almost half over, and it really hasn't mattered whether he plays. I mean, he was not effective in there. And then you had the game where he was re-injured or whatever happened in that one, where he was like 1 for 5 with a pick, and they go on to beat Indianapolis, scoring 39 points. So, I mean, the Browns, it's a lot of teams right now where you just don't know who the quarterback is, whether he's even good at all. It's really an unknown. It's hard to trust in fantasy where you have, in Cleveland's case, of course, Amari Cooper or Njoku, and you're trying to figure out what to do there. But so far, the way I'm looking at it is it's not a big difference whether it's Watson or not. And I think, their defense is so good. And they're 4-3. They could have easily been 5-2 in Seattle. Man, they would be a really interesting team in the mix in the AFC. They still can be, but they're going to have to get competent quarterback play to be able to win games against teams like the Bills and the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Dan, are we saying that $200 million guaranteed did not buy a game changer? Is that what I'm hearing right now?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you look at what Watson did down in Houston, and this just doesn't even seem like the same player. Right. While I'm very confident in saying that Watson is Cleveland's best chance to have competent quarterback play, I also feel pretty confident in saying that I don't think we can be sure that Watson's even the best quarterback on the team right now. It's just not looking good. I don't know what it is. We were just talking about Green Bay. Cleveland is like the opposite of that. They cannot get a quarterback to save their lives. I think Bernie Kosar was probably the last consistently good Browns quarterback.
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So, it's been a long time since Cleveland's really been relevant because, it goes to show how far the quarterback position does carry you, because they have had some good defenses from time to time. They've had some good running games from time to time. But this week, if you've got a Browns running back, just start him, I think.
In Dynasty right now, Mike, do you prefer Deshaun Watson or Bryce Young?
Wow. Watson. I'll say Watson because I still, as Dan was just sort of going through, I still just can't accept that
he's this bad.
He is like a different guy. So Young, of course, is so much younger, but I don't like the organization he ended up on. I haven't liked what's happened so far. I'm not a hater or anything like that, but I mean, I'm not too invested in Young. You didn't ask Stroud, because Stroud for me would be an easy yes.
Yeah.
I'll come back at you with Levis before this game tonight. What about Levis in this mix?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, I was not high on Levis throughout the draft evaluation process or anything. I just kind of felt like he would have to have kind of almost a Josh Allen type explosion, and I don't see that he has the skills that Allen does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the names that he would kind of go around in, when you're kind of looking at dynasty rankings. I think tonight will say a lot about Levis, right? If he kind of has a dud, which on a short week going to Pittsburgh, I would almost kind of not be surprised. But I think it'll say a lot. Like if he does have a decent game, I think his stock is going to skyrocket quite a bit over the weekend, probably. All right, let's get into we've got this little echo thing going on that we're trying to figure out. So I'm just reading some messages in the back room here. Let's look at Arizona, guys. Speaking of offenses that are maybe struggling, they just sent Dobbs away. DeMarcado was a guy I picked up off waivers that we had hopes off of. Dan, he didn't practice. According to what we were looking at earlier, I think it was the NBC Sports line there. And then you've got Kyler Murray coming off of IR. Maybe I'll start with you, Dan. What's your how are you approaching this Arizona situation? We just talked about how they're going to Cleveland this weekend, and then maybe you can give your thoughts rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Arizona, the rest of the season is going to go as Kyler Murray goes. I think they don't want to really do that well anyways, but I don't know. I think Kyler should come back this week, but they might not do it just because it's Cleveland and they're playing in Cleveland. I think, they're probably going to put Clayton Tune in there and see what happens, but I would love to see Kyler in there. DeMarcado, with him out, I think I would probably get out there and pick up Keontae Ingram if he can. Hold him on your bench and see what happens, because if you need a running back, he might be the guy.
I would say Ingram's usage ticked up last week. It's been really hard to sort of know what they're going to do. It was DeMarcado was the big pickup, and then he hardly played, and then he played all the game, and then last week was more of a mix. So I don't know what they're thinking there is exactly, but you don't want to have to start either one, right? Especially against the Browns.
So Jeff Mueller, PT, DPT, is saying just projecting players. This is a couple hours ago that were out, and DeMarcado was on there. The other thing I was seeing was today Murray was still practicing, was still throwing to the practice squad, according to the X machine, from what I can tell.
In every way, it makes sense for Clayton Tune to play this game. They're not expected to win. I mean, you're going to bring Kyler Murray, your big investment, back against the Browns on the road. I mean, it's almost – there might not be a worse spot. In November, there might not be a worse spot for that. So home next week, is it Seattle? I'm not sure, but that's when you make that move, I think, especially when your eyes are on finishing with the first overall pick.
I don't know, Harry Snowman. I'm not getting any echoes at all. Are you guys hearing it? Those listening, like in the chat, let us know if you guys are hearing an echo. But I'm not hearing anything on my end. We'll figure it out. It's all good. Let's move ahead here.
We play through it. We play through it. We're on the eighth fair. We're in the eighth hole in the rough on the right, and it's starting to rain. But we're the GOAT district. We're going to keep going. We're going to, just sort of, maybe we'll put a jacket on. Maybe there's an umbrella. If we have a caddy, that'd be awesome. We just sort of, keep, get the ball in the hole. That's it.
Okay.
If you guys talk while I'm on mute, maybe because they're telling us there's an echo, so maybe let's try to fix this really quick.
Okay. Yeah, we'll continue on talking while you're on mute, and then, but you can probably go ahead, JD, and move on to the next topic.
Are his headphones on mute? Can we talk about him in this situation, or freely, or no? Just the mic.
I think it's just the mic. Let's find out. We'll say bad things about Canada, and not Matt.
Yeah, it's weird. My settings are all the same as they always are. I did a show earlier and we didn't have an echo, so I'm not sure. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Hopefully, it's not too bad.
It's probably the Dolphins helmet. The problem is probably the Dolphins helmet.
I blame the Dolphins helmet for sure.
I come on the show to talk Bills, and I've got a Dolphins helmet. Dolphins Chiefs, terrible, unforgivable.
One guy who's not getting favorable talk these days is Daniel Jones, but at least he's back from injury, and it looks like Darren Waller might be out on the other end of that. How are we feeling about the Giants? Is there hope, Mike, for Daniel Jones to turn this around, for the Giants to turn this around this season? They've shown life in some games, but more defensively, I find.
I think so. I think he's playing for his career. So you've got Dable, you've got mostly the same weapons. You're not going to have Waller this week or even for a few weeks. You still got Barkley. I have been picking up Jones last couple of days because people gave up on him. There was the injury, but yeah, I think there's definitely hope there. And in a landscape where you have 10 or so teams where the quarterback, you don't even know who they are. Daniel Jones works at the Raiders. Okay. I mean, he had the big game in Arizona, big second half at least. I feel like he might just be free on waivers, and you're looking at teams with Kenny Pickett or Garoppolo or Bryce Young. I think Jones might end up being an upgrade.
Yeah, I think you gotta hope that Daniel Jones coming back and the offensive line, hopefully being intact this week for the first time since week 1, really helps out. I mean, it was concerning how much better Tyrod was making the offense look than Daniel Jones when Daniel Jones was in there. So, but at least Daniel Jones had his miracle cure as soon as Tyrod Taylor got hurt. All of a sudden, word came in that Jones had actually been cleared before the game. So, of course, this was not a reaction to the Tyrod Taylor injury in any way, shape, or form. But, yeah. And, with Waller out, I mean, this passing game is still probably going to be a mess. I think it's probably going to be going on, the legs of Daniel Jones and especially the legs of Saquon Barkley. Though I will say Daniel Jones is almost certain to improve on the passing yardage of last week, which was -7 or 9 yards, something like that.
-9, not even net, -9 yards. Amazing that could be possible. Not in a blizzard.
Right, yeah, in the modern NFL, no doubt about it.
Dan, should I let you take over? Like, if I'm echoing that much and it's distracting the show, I can just hop off and let you guys. I'm checking all my settings, but I could see that I am catching. For some reason, it's catching the show. I don't really know how it's doing that because I've never had that before. But if you want, I can change the screen, and you guys can just dance with the show sheet if you want.
No, I think stay on and just kind of mute yourself when you're not talking, and
right.
We'll be fine. Everything's good when your mic is muted. Though actually, right now, I'm not getting an echo at all.
Okay.
So let's keep going.
Whoever is not talking, mute.
There we go. Keep it easy. Let's go to Atlanta. Atlanta's been an interesting one this season. London now did not practice. I don't know if you guys have any update on that with regards to him playing or not. You've got Heineke now coming in as the starter, which, Ritter, they gave him the 8 weeks and had enough, so they're throwing him in. What do you guys think in Atlanta? Any hope with Heineke for the pieces out there, for Pitts, for Bijan, or are we going to get kind of the same old that we've been seeing, you think, in Atlanta with the play calling?
I think there's hope. I think it's maybe even a good result for fantasy managers of those other guys. Heineke showed in Washington, think of the McLaurin experience when you saw Heineke on the field. Like, it was hard to watch, but there were numbers. So maybe Heineke, not to make it a Washington thing, but is a poor man's Sam Howell, if that's possibly a thing you can achieve in life, where there's not as much with Howell. There's so much, maybe more like on the Minshew level. Listen to these names. What look at our lives at this point. I think it's okay. I think it's probably not likely to be a negative at all that Atlanta has made this move for us. We know Atlanta does everything it can to make our fantasy lives miserable, but I think that this is probably a tick up.
Yeah, you got Snowman dropping the Vikings data here, 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games against Atlanta. I was going to ask Dan, the spread right now 4 in favor of Atlanta with the Vikings visiting. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is a hard sentence for me to say, but the Vikings defense is playing pretty well right now. So I don't really know how to react to that. It's not anything I've seen very often recently, certainly not since the early years of Mike Zimmer. So I do think the Vikings will probably acquit themselves pretty well. It's just whether they can score on offense. I think that's going to be the main thing. But I'm right with Mike on his take on Taylor Heineke. I think Heineke is overall a good thing for this offense, certainly for the passing offense. Desmond Ridder just was not a great passer consistently. He could occasionally have bouts of competence, but those were often ruined by his turnovers. So if they turn over the ball less a little bit, and Heineke, sometimes you want to cover your eyes until the fourth quarter, but he always seems to find a way to keep his team in the game. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic, I guess I would say, on that. And then Drake London, I kind of have my doubts as to whether he's going to play. I mean, he did not go back into the game after he got hurt on Sunday, and we have not seen him practice since. Maybe if you can get something in on Friday, but I think if you got Drake London and you normally have him in your lineup, you need to be looking for other options and know what you're going to do.
Is there a guy there you want in waiver? Like, is it Kadarrell Hodge? Is it Hollins? Is it Kyle Pitts? Like, that maybe he ends up, he's a wide receiver already. There could be, if we like this Heineke logic, there could be somebody you want on Atlanta DFS or just in any situation where you might be brave enough to start him if no London. Like, nobody has known all year what to do after London at wide receiver in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think, I think Cordarrelle Patterson becomes somewhat interesting in this case. So,
yes.
Yeah,
That's
and
fun.
yeah. Jonnu Smith has been kind of dropping off. I think they could work him back in a little bit more. So
That's what I was thinking. Johnny and Pitts could get in there. Looking at their depth chart, I mean, they got Van Jefferson, remember, who got traded there?
Right.
So maybe they let him. Maybe this is kind of like a tryout for him type of deal. Scott Miller's there, Mac Hollins. So you're probably looking at Van Jefferson. I think they're going to try to get him involved, if not the tight ends, in my opinion.
Yeah, Harry Snowman asked a good question. Who's Heineke been practicing with on the second team? That probably is a really good question as well, because we often see those receivers go off in the first game or two when there's a quarterback change.
50 rushes.
Wow.
50 rushes against Minnesota if they get ahead. If the Minnesota guy, it's Jaron Hall. If he's bad, then Atlanta's off the hook.
Yeah.
All this is bad planning, and it's just Bijan and Algier. I think Algier is where I want to be.
That's probably it. It's got to be Algier.
You know anything, Dan, on this Hall quarterback, this young quarterback?
I mean, they like him a lot for a guy that they drafted in the 5th round. They think that he fits their scheme really well, but he's still a rookie. The players have been saying he's done a good job as a scout quarterback preparing the team for the quarterbacks they're going to face. But that's kind of the problem with where he's been at, is he's been mimicking all these other offenses and hasn't really been spending as much time learning the Vikings offense. So kind of once they got out of training camp, in the preseason, his job has been something different than what they're asking him to do now. So I think, Kevin O'Connell, he's got to figure out what plays and schemes that Jaron Hall is most comfortable with, and that's what he's got to go with. And meanwhile, they're trying to get Josh Dobbs up to speed. I would not count out Nick Mullins either. He's he looked all right from time to time with the 49ers a couple 3 years back. So, he's not the worst backup in the world either. So I think what the Vikings are doing basically is they've got 3 options here. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see any or all of them get some time as a starter, unless, of course, one of them just grabs a job and takes off running with it, which I don't expect to happen.
Guys, smash the like button, like Harry Snowman says. Spread the love. Share the show with your friends, anyone else who might benefit. We love talking fantasy, high stakes, best ball, redraft, dynasty. We talk about all of it here. We try to bring you the biggest guest, the best player on the planet, including Mike. Mike, you leaned in a bit there. You have something to add there?
Well, I'm not going to get the name right, so I'm going to try to think of a funny name for this. I checked out of the grocery store a month or so ago, and I'm just pushing my cart out to the parking lot. I love the grocery store. It's a great day. And there's a man and a woman ahead of me, and the man sort of turns around, turns his head, looks at me, and he said, "Are you going to start Cam Akers this week?" Or something like that. It wasn't Cam Akers. But I'm like, whatever. It's the Harry Snowman.
No way.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we shop at the same store. He recognized me and started asking a fantasy question. Like, I watch all your shows. Like, I was just so touched and
That's
and
awesome.
flattered. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
That's
Anthony,
why I
what
leaned
should
in.
we
Good,
do?
good read. Good read. That's why I leaned in.
Awesome.
Nice. That's good to hear.
That's fantastic stuff.
That's awesome. In Houston, I mean, we've seen, Stroud has gotten some excitement there. They've looked decent with a young team, young coach coming in, defensive coach. Running the ball hasn't been great. Pierce is not a guy I was high on, Dan. He's at best, he gave you RB14 so far this year against Jacksonville, week 3, RB17. Everything else was kind of non-relevant. He didn't practice. Does Singletary become a bit more of a flex spot, maybe with Pierce out, or what do you think? They just lean on chucking the ball out there in Houston, Dan?
No, I think Singletary becomes viable. I mean, I still don't expect a whole ton out of him, but Dameon Pierce really hasn't done anything. Has not looked, doesn't seem to be a great fit for the offense, I don't think. But I've got a couple of Dameon Pierce FOMO shares. Just couldn't, as many teams as I have, I couldn't go with a straight full 100% fade. But I'm kind of almost excited to see what Singletary can do, because it can't possibly be worse and it might be better. What do you think, Mike?
They used Mike Boone even in like key situations in a game that they lost on the last play or whatever that was in Carolina. I have always liked Pierce. It worked out mostly last year, even though it didn't turn into like James Robinson rookie season, but it was okay. Didn't get you beat. Then this year, it's just not happening. Like the player, like the quarterback, like the offense. Where is the money? Where's the where's the stuff? So I'm starting Spears over him tonight because I'm worried about his toe, and I like to have one guy in my lineup on Thursday night just for information. It's why teams defer. So you get the second half kickoff. You have information, you know something you didn't know half an hour ago, and you play accordingly. I like to have one guy on Thursday night, even when it's gross. Tonight's like 8 out of 10 on the gross scale, but just give me one guy. So I'll break ties with Thursday night players like Spears over Pierce. It could end up looking terrible.
Interesting. I'm almost the other way. I try to avoid Thursday games with the play.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the first time I hear that liking it. I get the information thing. I don't know if you're a poker guy, but that's a big
I'm a wannabe poker guy. Then I can go back into waivers on Sunday morning. I can cut guys who are on my bench if I have 2 guys from the same game, and just now we're playing XD chess. I don't know, but I'm not sure I'm right, but that's how I like to do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought for sure. And Thursday games aren't quite as bad as they used to be. There was a long stretch there where they were just offensive wastelands, and that was the main reason why I was trying to stay out of them. But they seem to be getting a little bit better, so I'm more willing to start Thursday players now.
Aiden O'Connell gets the start in Vegas this weekend. We saw Josh McDaniel get the boot. GM got the boot. You're seeing kind of the new temporary regime, I guess you could call it. They've got that temporary coach. I already forget his name.
Antonio Pierce.
Yes.
There you go. Perfect.
Yep.
See, that's right after the other Dameon Pierce question we did. There you go. Mike, why don't you give us your thoughts on Vegas, on O'Connell? Is there hope? I feel like this is like one of those sneaky super flex plays in O'Connell. I grabbed him in a couple spots. What are your thoughts there, and what are your thoughts on the new coaching regime there in Vegas?
I love it. And even though it's a huge long shot, he's on my, and probably only my deep end invitational team, O'Connell. On the probability that Garoppolo falls apart, that Josh McDaniels falls apart. That did happen. It took 8 weeks, but it's not going to be surprising to anybody that the Raiders it's gone badly. I think, when there's a new coach, ownership gets involved, like it can't take it anymore. What do they want? Anything is possible. Like Jacobs has run badly this year. I picked up Zamir White when I could, just in case, like maybe they start tanking. Maybe they just want to try new things. And Hunter Renfrow is a part of that too. Like Renfrow might have been in the coach's doghouse. He's $1. I'll take, we think he's probably a little bit good. I'll take Hunter Renfrow. Maybe the question apparently is who has O'Connell been practicing with on the second team? I don't know all those names, but it's all upside down when a team makes a head coach change halfway through the season. Like winning is out, playoffs are out. What that means for Davante Adams is really tough. But make sure in terms of fantasy football strategy, you don't forget about those backups on teams like that, because they could end up playing a lot. It doesn't matter if they're good. If they're a running back, like Zamir White could end up really playing a lot late in the season if they're quasi trying to get, to the first pick.
Yeah, and I think it behooves them to find out as much information about players like Zamir White as they can. I've never been a Josh McDaniels fan. I always called him like the oldest fraternity bro around. He just looks like he wants to make pledges, do push-ups and shots, and it's just kind of got that vibe about him. I don't know, but I think it's it's kind of sad because when you think back, Rich Bisaccia, was the interim coach, and Mark Davis didn't even want to give him a chance, and he goes out there and gets Josh McDaniels instead. And I was not a fan of that move when it happened, and clearly it's gone very sideways. So it'll be interesting to see what Mark Davis has up his sleeves now. But I can bet it's going to be some big name coach, and he's going to sign him to a massive contract, and it's going to work out about as well as the last two guys.
Often we're wrong at this. I can't remember a time I was critical of the Raiders and been wrong.
Yeah, not
Garoppolo, right, Dan? I mean, Garoppolo was a terrible idea. Tyree Wilson, when you needed a quarterback, was a terrible idea. Josh McDaniels, everybody agreed.
Well, Jimmy G's especially a bad idea when you get rid of Derek Carr. Like, it didn't make sense to go from Carr to Jimmy G. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get that one. That's a bad pivot.
Everything is a bad idea. Even the Adams trade, as good as everybody believes Adams is, like, why are you doing this when you're in this condition? So, I mean, go to the bottom, Raiders, if you know what's right.
Yeah. Now you got a pissed off Adams there too, which is not good at all for.
Yeah, I mean, the franchise hasn't been good since Al Davis passed, for sure, and I think I can answer the Davante Adams. Why did they take him, or why did they sign him? They were moving into Las Vegas and coming off of the COVID year and all that kind of stuff. And they wanted something to put fans' butts in the seats. But I don't think they really even need to do that. I mean, just by virtue of the fact that this is, a franchise in Las Vegas. I mean, there's a real thirst there to start with, and you've always got the visiting team coming all the time anyway. So they're getting people anyways. But probably enough.
Game of the week, guys. Giants at Vegas. Vegas at home, 1.5 favorite.
Oh.
Go. I've been saying for years they draft like they don't have the internet. That's
right.
That's a good one. I like that.
Right.
All right,
and
let's help Ruckus out. He's been waiting a long time for this question. Let's grade the trade. It's a 10-man PPR, Superflex, tight end Preem, Olave, Gus the Bus for McLaurin, and Javonte Williams. McLaurin and Olave seem lateral, but I'm definitely getting an upgrade in RB. What do you guys think? What are you first?
Olave, Gus the Bus for McLaurin and Javonte.
This is dynasty, right? Or is this redraft? It feels like redraft. Let us know, Ruckus, if this is redraft or Dino, just because I don't want to give you the wrong. I mean, does it matter? Let me see here. Just because Gus the Bus feels like he's only relevant in redraft right now, no?
Yes. And Javonte Williams is trending up. I'd like to take McLaurin is going to be in shootouts. I think I'm on that side.
Yeah, I think you're getting the two better players, like the combination of two better players, and you're selling Gus high. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm there with you. If it's redraft, it's got to be McLaurin and Javonte.
All right, echo's going on. I don't know if something's up with StreamYard, but anyways, we'll keep muting when we get off, when we're not part of the convoy here. Why don't we talk Bills a bit? We've got Mike on. I mean, we've got to talk Bills. We touched on it a little bit. Curious, Mike, we talked a bit about the running backs. Now they bring in Fournette, who looked jacked, by the way. Fat Lenny jokes aside, the guy looks nice and jacked right now, ready to go. He's got the short shorts. His quads are just busting out. So it's nice to see him in shape, because I know I've got LF on a lot of teams, like on my bench, whether it was Dynasty, Redraft. I've got so much LF in best ball. Like, I've been waiting. I'm surprised it took this long for him to get on a team. But what do you think he does there, and how does it affect the rotation? We've seen James Cook play well. Does he maybe cap the young running back now, or what do you think? How do you think this plays out?
Anything is possible with this. I am leaning to the moon with Fournette. Like, I'm bidding on him last night. I think he's got to be an upgrade over Latavius Murray. The efficiency numbers on Murray are pretty bad. I mean, goal line carries, and Fournette he's sort of known for doing well what Murray is known for doing well, pass protection, and he'll catch the ball. And, sports teams love experience, and the Bills don't have any championship experience, like, of their own. I don't mean they don't have guys, Rasul Douglas has a ring, all right? So, but Fournette is sort of famous for his playoff performances, playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny. So, I think, he could get in. He's practice squad, so he has to be elevated to play this week, but he's a running back, so he could. And they have some high-profile games. They're using their running backs a lot less than they were earlier in the season. But I've never really bought into James Cook, as you know, JD. As you know, we've sparred on this before. It's a ride when it comes to Cook in fantasy. I think Fournette has a path to, like, sort of being their number one guy. They're not going to be ever a team that leans on running backs if they know what they're doing, and they've always shown in recent years that they do. But I want Fournette right now.
Love it. Yeah, I'm I'm starting to wonder if we should call him Leg Day, Lenny, for one. And yeah, I mean that, anytime you see a picture of a player, sometimes it's a weird angle or whatever, but he definitely looks a lot more svelte than what I expected him to look when I first saw him get into a uniform. So I got him in a few places. I wish I'd seen that picture before I bid, because I might have bid a few more spots. But yeah, I think Latavius Murray is, he's pretty close to cooked, and James Cook, he's good between the 20s, but he's not exactly the guy you want around the goal line. So, yeah, I think Fournette might be a pretty good answer there. And what I would love to also find out from you, Mike, is, what do you think about how the team has morphed with Dawson Knox out and going to more 11 personnel? Do you think they look better on offense, or is that just kind of who they were playing?
I think it's definitely the former. They looked great in that game. They had a lead. They punted a bunch of times late. They could have won that game by 30. I mean, if you had the Bills minus 8.5, that's a shame. We'll see eventually, if not this Sunday night, how sticky that was with Shakir. There was no indication that I know of that Shakir would be like their regular wide receiver 3. They were always rotating. Deontay Hardy was the favorite for that role, I thought. But, again, using the running backs less, rather. Do they get in a shootout with Cincinnati? They have some very tough defensive matchups. The Bengals, the Broncos. I'm calling that tough, but I might be in the minority. The Jets, the Eagles, the Chiefs. That's their next 5 games. That's insane. Shakir, Adam wanted to bid on him last night. I never imagined starting him. Like, I think the 11 personnel thing could hold. If they score like crazy, they're going to have a tough time justifying putting Knox back in for a majority of snaps. And Kincaid seems like he's really good. So he might be the answer to this. But I don't want to be investing in Shakir or the other receivers after Diggs and Davis. Davis had a really encouraging game. Yards per target cut in half against Tampa Bay. And so I made a trade today in a dynasty league, one of those 250s on FFPC. I was offered Gabe Davis in 2 seconds for Drake London, and I took it. You're the first. You guys are the first people I'm telling that to. So you have at it.
Sorry, which side did you get?
He sent Davis in 2 seconds.
It's a rebuilding team. It's bad. It's going to be in the consolation, but Davis in 2 seconds for London. I like London.
Nice. Yeah, I like London as well. JD, what do you think?
No, I like it. You're getting a guy that down the road will give you more consistency, more longevity. Davis is inconsistent right now. He's popping and he's in that offense. He's kind of like a really nice flex because he can get you those big games, but he's very inconsistent. And you're selling high because he's had some good games so far this year. And I don't mind buying when you're in rebuild either, sending picks and another player that's producing to get yourself a nice long-term solid piece. Nice
I'm on the Davis side.
Oh, you're getting Davis back?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I want those picks.
Got it. Yeah.
I got my answer.
No, I thought you bought London with the 2 picks and Davis, but I don't mind pivoting to Davis if you're getting 2 seconds on top because, production's probably similar at this point. I'm thinking more long-term, you're probably liking London a bit more than Davis, but the 2 picks make up for that.
I definitely agree with that. London is fine. There is the possibility that his coach is such a baboon that, it's just sort of not going to ever sort of happen where he gets tons of targets or anything like that. I apologize for that word. But I wanted the draft pick, so I did that.
Snowman likes it. Says good trade. That's a good trade. Anytime you're getting picks, and a couple picks, especially seconds first, and you can get something to fill in the blanks, in between. The only thing I see wrong with that trade, Mike, is you've got Davis now. You have to play him. This is FFPC?
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least you've got him for the consolation picks that we talked about.
It might be fine. That was a great week we just had. Maybe it sort of keeps going. We'll see.
Because I was just thinking he's scoring points on your team, in your lineup, which isn't helping you. But if it's an FFPC, you want to be competitive, right to the end.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
So I had an interesting discussion on Twitter with a couple other people about Davis, and so I'm interested to get your thoughts, Mike. Basically he's a 4th-year wide receiver. But you can kind of make excuses for every year up until now about why he hasn't really, put together a decent stretch of performance. And this year, it does seem like he's acting more like a wide receiver too. He is, I think, wide receiver 24 right now, but he's got 3 games over 21 points. He's got 1 game of 15 points, and then he has 4 games of just total crap. But that's not the worst thing in the world either, because
which for his price, Dan, is it bad?
What's that?
For the price he was going at, isn't that bad?
Oh no, yeah, definitely not. And so I'm curious, Mike. Do you think that Gabe Davis is finally starting to break out here, or is this just kind of a small sample size and we're making too much of it?
It's hard to say. What happened against Tampa Bay was very unusual for what has happened in his career. For the Bills to throw to him short, lots of RPO stuff, lots of no huddle. It was all very different, which is to their credit. They did that in a short week, and it worked. So I like the player well enough. There's enough in terms of fantasy football. There's a lot to like. The big play aspect, the best ball, potential for Davis. Whether that lasts he's not going to have that game very often, but he scored a touchdown in 4 straight games this year. He is going to free agency, which will make it interesting in a dynasty context. Somebody could come along and pay him big, maybe not on the T. Higgins level, but a wide receiver 2 on a great offense that's been very productive. So, that's where I'm at on Davis. I think that's everything, whether he never comes off the field. He's somebody that blocking wise and sort of playing the position completely, the Bills have shown that they like. They take Diggs off the field more often than they take Davis off the field. So
here's my one problem, Mike, with the trade. Now that I've had time to digest looking at the numbers, he's coming off at 12 targets, 9 receptions, 87 yards. He's their wide receiver 9, so you're kind of buying him high off a guy who has spike weeks. I would have waited, or I would have either got him the week prior when he was wide receiver 88, or I would have waited for his next dud, which, could be in the next couple of games. I mean, this week against Cincinnati, chat was saying probably going to be fireworks, but I feel like a player like that, I might want to wait for his value to go down. No?
Am I the fish in that song? Who wrote that song, by the way, that you guys play at the beginning of these? How amazing is that?
Man bun.
No,
man bun.
You can't, the person came to me and I thought it was fair and I said yes. And there are people in your dynasty leagues or your fantasy leagues who are out there, they'll always be trading. They watch the GOAT District, they know the rules, and they're annoying sometimes because they're just always there with something else. There's an injury, they're ambulance chasers. They're coming at you just like constantly. You have an injured quarterback, here's my quarterback. I'll take this. And I'm too old for that. Like I just cannot deal. I cannot deal with that.
I like that.
I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it's like, it doesn't have to work. It's not one of those trades where you're gasping for breath because you're staring at it for 5 seconds to see if it's real. And then you're texting somebody to check, but you don't want to wait too long because you don't want the offer to be rescinded because you don't think the person necessarily was of sound mind. This was one where I did contemplate it. I'm like, okay, let's go. I mean, Davis has talent. London does too. 2 picks. I want to rebuild this team. This is how I'm going to do it.
And Buddy knows his audience, right, Dan? He went right to the Bills, the voice of the Bills, right after a great game from Davis. He knew he was there watching the game, just salivating over Davis. And then he threw in those 2 picks, those 2 seconds, and he's like, oh, man, there's no way he says no to this. I'm getting my line.
I checked. Listen. Fine, that's funny. I checked to see, where would these picks be in the second round. I'm not the voice of the Bills. The play-by-play announcer is the voice of the Bills, which right now
I like calling you the voice of the Bills. Come on, you're the voice of the Bills. I'm trying to get
I don't even work for the Bills. I talk about them every day for 25 years.
That's the voice of the Bills. You're talking about the Bills every day.
The voice of Buffalo. We'll give him that.
I don't want to get you in trouble, so I'll.
That's a higher compliment to me.
I'll take the S off of your last name, and I won't call you. There you go. How about that?
That's fine.
Here's the one thing where I think Mike is crazy like a fox, because Arthur Smith is going to be back next year because the Falcons are probably going to make the playoffs or come super, super close to it. And, there's going to be more of this crap going on with, how the offense is run. I mean, Drake London has been kind of the most consistent guy, but the problem is he's like the best guy on a bad offense. And, fantasy-wise, he's been, really nothing special. I love his talent, but when you look at what actual points he's putting in your lineup, it's fairly replaceable. And I guess my question would be, I'm not even sure who's got more points right now, Drake London or Gabe Davis. But I bet it's close.
That's a fair question. I don't know the answer either, but I like that question.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up.
So, anyway.
Why don't we go out with this? I was going to go out like a prediction for tonight's game, but that's kind of boring. There's an early game Sunday morning, guys. Pretty good game, too. I hate those Sunday mornings. I always forget about them. Too much family stuff going on. But 9:30 a.m., guys, the Dolphins and the Chiefs in Germany. Mike, remind the people where they can find all your goodness, where they can find you every day talking about the Bills, where they can find you in the Player Profiler Network, on the X Machine, and give us your prediction for that Sunday morning game in Germany.
Okay. Well, Audacy, AUDACY, is where you can find my daily show with the Bulldog, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, 3 to 7 afternoons in Buffalo. I've been doing that show or some facsimile since 2000. The Deep End with Adam Krautwurst, Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, an hour before you guys. So we're very cognizant of getting done in an hour out of respect to the GOAT District. Sunday morning, man, you just hope at least it's not at 19-8 or some, rando island game score like that. The Chiefs defense is excellent. And the Dolphins have not done great, at least production-wise, against better teams. They've really gotten fat against a lot of bad teams. So I will take Kansas City. The line is 3 or less, depending on where you look. And they're coming off a loss. That's where I want to be on the Chiefs. And so I'm there. But the Dolphins are scary. And if they win this game, look, I mean, they're 7-2, at least a game up in the AFC East, probably the 1 seed, Tua for MVP. If they win in any fashion, that could happen on Sunday morning. So I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's totally going to be a fun watch. I'm looking forward to that as well. And I'm kind of a like mind with Mike on this. I think the Chiefs defense might be the thing that kind of carries the game for them. But also, I wouldn't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes coming off the kind of game he came off of the last week. I think he's going to be pretty pissed off, and I think he's probably going to be out there to try to show people and show Germany that this is not who they saw last week is not who he is. So I think it should be a fun game. I mean, you've got all kinds of story angles here too with Tyreek Hill, revenge game or whatever you want to call it. So I am definitely predicting Tyreek Hill is going to have a great game, despite the fact that the Chiefs will try to stop him. I don't think he's stoppable this year, but I do like the Chiefs to win the game.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be a fun one. Guys, tonight was a fun one. We appreciate you guys in the chat. You guys are always awesome. Apologies for the echoes. I have a feeling it's a StreamYard thing just because it was weird how we all kind of... Anyways, I'll take the blame. Give me the blame. It's all good. I'll take the blame.
No.
Enjoy the game tonight, guys.
Blame Larry Zonka.
We blame
the Dolphins.
There it is.
That's right.
Blame the Dolphins helmet. I love it. Guys, enjoy the game tonight. Good luck this weekend, week 9. Keep those streaks going. Keep getting those dubs. And join us back 9:30 Eastern on the Player Profiler Network right after the Deep End with Mike Schopp. We appreciate him. We appreciate you. Guys, good luck, and we'll check you all.
Go district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.